That notwithstanding, we still have a conversation to have here, and we have, like I said, Faith Gishanga, who's a counseling and organizational therapist, who's joining us in studio. And first and foremost, Faith, before we even get to hear what some of the young guys have been saying, we're seeing some of the older generations. People are so surprised by what's happening, like the boldness, the nerve that these young guys have. Is it that there's something we didn't see coming for those of us who are older, now that I align myself with the older folk?
I think we misjudged them. I think this generation has always been bold, and I think we can see that by parents complaining. I think every parent who's a parent of Gen Z, one of the things that they've all been saying in unison is that, we are having difficult conversations, or these children want to do what they want to do. So it's that we may have misjudged them, but then we've also never been in a space like this where they collectively came and did something international. So I think we all knew in the small part of our communities and our societies and our households, but then now they have come together, and so we're seeing it more. But I think they are being themselves pretty much.
So for you who's interacted with them in terms of professionally, as a therapist, when we talk about even organizationally, where you'll interact with various organizations and who have young staff, was this entirely a surprise to you, or is it zero surprise, or is it hybrid?
I think, just like I said, it's a hybrid. The scale, I'm not surprised, but the scale in which that this has happened, that has surprised me. But like I said, even in the organizations, they're bold. Like when, let me also count myself in the older generations, when we'd get employed and there was that last clause in your job description that says, and every other duty that you may be assigned, by your supervisor, they don't subscribe to that. It's please spell out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I need to do, and I need to know these are the things. So after that, anything after that, no, I'm not going to do that. So they've always been this bold. It's not surprising that they know their rights and they're not afraid to advocate for it. So it's just that now it's, again, like I said, it's national, it's in front of our eyes, and then it's off social media. Another thing, these things, they've always been doing them on social media, but now it's been, but see, most of us are not on social media, or that's not what we are watching when we're on social media for those of us, but now it's in the news, okay? So we are seeing it more, but this has been them at the workplace, in the families, this has been them.
All right, and we'll come to the workplace in a bit. I just want us to listen to what some of them said in light of the older generation. I don't know whether it is the generation we are in, or a much older one. Listen to what some of the Gen Zs have been saying during the protests that have been ongoing.
And I want to tell our leaders that you cannot create a problem, conveniently solve it, and then expect to be lauded for it. You created the bread tax, umeitoa, alafu unataka kupigiwa makofi, no.
We are urging all our members of parliament that we are watching you. Anybody who is going to go against our will, we are going to come on you, and we are going to have a small talk with you. Comrades, keep him.
Sema no kama vijana, na bado sasa hilo tumeanza. Sasa hilo tumeanza. Vijana ria! Vijana ria! Generation here says, never again shall we ever stretch our patience to accommodate the responsibility of this government.
Ninajitokeza ili mradi wabunge wetu ambao tuliweza kuwachagua wote wasikize maneno ya wananchi, wasikize kilio cha wananchi, wasikize machaguo ya wananchi. Hatutaki finance bill. Na kama mnasema kwamba sisi kama wananchi tulikubaliana finance bill, do you mean the public participation we rejected and we didn't want finance bill? Reject finance bill, reject.
Government is killing us, please. We are peaceful. Let us demonstrate in peace. Reject the finance bill 2024. Thank you. If we don't do it, who will? We may stand as the Gen Zs and stand, because 2027, the country is ours. Yes. So if we don't, who will?
We've done something that no other generation in this country has actually ever done. We've shown them that, look, despite what you guys think about us, despite the fact that you think we are stupid, despite the fact that you have a couple of people in government who are young and who are collaborating with you to lie to us and to steal our money, we are not stupid. We know exactly what's going on. We know our rights, and we know that the Constitution of Kenya protects us. So the message is very simple. This is not the end. This is actually just the beginning. And let me tell you one thing. The next rally or the next protest haitakuwa thousands of people. we are going to make sure that it's going to be millions of people. Ndio mjue that money you're stealing, mkienda hizo harambee na hizo mapesa zote, we are not happy.
What's your reaction when listening to those guys speaking that way?
So first of all, they know their rights. And maybe I can say even the generations before that, they knew their rights. But what we are seeing, the difference is that these ones are fearless. I think there were spaces, and just growing up, we were sold for fear, okay? And it comes from the generations before us like that. So as we can see, even the millennials, before Gen Zs, millennials were also thought to be a bit fearless, okay? So these guys have now taken it to another level. So they know their rights, and then they are not afraid to ask for it. And that's the thing, again, when I say like in the corporate space, I think that's also somewhere else those of us who are older generations have complained because we hear them coming and saying, I'm not feeling okay, I need to take leave. And in fact, some people were complaining, some managers were like, no, actually they don't even, they send you a text that morning to tell you, I'm not coming to work, I'm not feeling well. But for us, you had to put in an application for leave and then wait for it until it's approved.
Had to or still have to.
Yes, but their generation is different. So they are fearless for what they believe. They will do what they need to do for it. But at the same time, this is the other thing. When the older generations, probably when we protested, there was a level of anger that was a bit personal. They are not as angry. They have this collective anger because of the maybe social injustice, but it's not from, we see some humanity. We see they're saying, okay, we'll also have some doctors to take care of not just the protesters, but the police in case they're injured. I think we also saw some clips of this guy who was giving the police soda. Yeah. So they have some humanity. So it's a very focused, when they're protesting and what they're fighting for, they're very focused on what they want. It's unfortunate, we've seen that clip of maybe there was vandalism, and like we said, we don't know who did that. But largely, they're not about vandalism. They're not about distraction, both destruction and distraction. They're focused. This is what we want. This is what we are agitating for.
All right. And excuse me. So you've mentioned about the workplace, for instance, because these are the same guys who are in the workplace. Some of them, we've been told, took leave to go for maandamano, and they didn't hide it. They didn't, the older generations again, some guys would say, oh, I'm sick. They call in sick so they can go do something, and if they're in the maandamano, they probably would wear masks, shades, or boshori, or balaclava, as some will call it. But these guys are giving a whole new dynamic, even in the workspace. So for you, who then, as an organizational therapist, how then should managers or just people who are in the workspace with people who are of this kind of nature manage them or just interact with them in a way that is not going to feel like there's maandamano in every office?
That's a very good perspective to give us who have, and the thing is now we are intergenerational. So yes, they are coming into the workforce and they are already part of it. So number one, just realizing that our way is not the only right way. We are from a generation of suiting up and clear cut and but this is a different generation, and it's not necessarily bad that they don't want to suit up. It's not necessarily bad that they want to have dreads in the office. So first of all, just a paradigm shift in how we perceive. Now these guys, at the same time, we also need to realize that it's not. For most of us, our work is I'm supposed to be there 8 to 5. Whether I have something to do, whether I don't have, I have to sit and wait until 5 reaches. But this generation is not about that. They're not getting paid to stay in the office. They're getting paid to meet targets. So that's also, when you're managing them, that's a dynamic you need to realize. Like their target, they're working towards targets, not because this is how we do things, this is how things have always been done. So there needs to be a paradigm shift. And the only way is we need to listen to them. Like even now they're crying, we have to listen to them because we don't know. To be honest, even throughout this protest, I have really, first of all, I'm in awe of how they have just come about and are doing these things. But the other thing is, even as a psychologist, I have not been able to predict their next move. Like there's always something new they're about to do or they're doing. So we cannot sit and say we know what they need. No, we have to listen to them so that they can tell us what their needs are. But at the same time, because there needs to be a balance, okay? We also have something to offer, to be honest and to be fair.
Yeah.
So it's the two generations or the however number of generations coming together. But we should not feel superior that we know better. That is one of the things that they do not like.
All right, and let's listen to what some of the older, much older generations had to say about this and what's been happening in terms of the Gen Z stroke millennials and just the boldness that they're showing. Let's listen in.
Kwanza hao vijana wako na hasira. Ruto vile alikuwa anatafuta kura, alikuwa na promise vijana kazi. Na kwa sababu wengi hawajapewa kazi na wanakuja kutoa ushuru, ndio wako na hii hasira kwa ajili ya serikali ya Ruto na Ruto mwenyewe. Kitu cha pili, wengi hao vijana ni watu wamesoma. Wengi ni graduates, wengine wako na masters na wana kazi. Na juzi serikali ikatangaza kwamba hawataandika watu kazi kwa miaka 2 ijayo. Sasa hiyo ndio hasira inasababisha vijana walikuja barabarani kuandamana dhidi ya serikali.
Vijana vile walikuwa wanachifanya, wanaongea, wanafanya vituko, mimi haikunifurahisha kama mzazi. Hata mimi mtoto yangu angekuwa huko singekubali. Kwa ajili hata maandamano hiyo haitawaletea suluhisho. Wangeenda polepole, hata wangewasikiliza.
Matu kweli kulingana na maandamano ya hao vijana haijanifurahisha kama mzazi. Vijana walikuwa wanatoa matusi na labda kijana wangu wako hapo. Ile advice mimi naweza wapea, waheshimu inji, waheshimu rais wetu, waheshimu kila mtu sababu hawajui ya kesho.
They are now impatient because they have been thinking that life will change. Because even the leadership, when they come in, they promise them so many other things, that they will have free education, which they have not realized. They will also have employment, which they have not realized. They have not gotten those employments. They have been told that their lives will change with the new leadership that comes in, but it remains the same. So, and maybe as parents, we keep on telling them go slow or all these things, but now it has now gone out of our hands. The young people have taken this and they want to run with it. In fact, I remember even yesterday I was told to stay away. It is not our time. They gave us time. Now they are tired.
For me, I'm happy on how Generation Z is using the internet and the social media to assemble and pass information, because the future is information and the future is internet.
Serikali kwanza ijue kwamba kila anayesukumwa akifika ukutani akigeuka huwa hakuna la kufanya isipokuwa kuchukua hatua ile ambayo anaweza kujitetea nayo, na nafikiri vijana ndio manake walichukua msimamo huo. Na pia vile vile mimi naona ni sawa, pia na waunga mkono wale vijana, inaonekana sasa wameamka. Maana mara nyingi huwa yasemekana huwa hawapigi kura. Normally they don't vote.
This generation has a lot of information. It also has a lot of information about their rights. And they are also able to communicate within themselves, share views, share ideas, and even agree on what they want and what they don't want. In the process, that's why when they say we need to come out and fight for our rights, they come out in their thousands. It's only that some of them are in school and they are not able to come out. Maybe they have classes, they have exams. If it's that period when schools and universities are closed, we would have seen a much bigger crowd in various towns than we saw yesterday and last week.
So you can hear the parents are saying, or the older people are talking about disrespect. These guys are impatient. What's your sense of what the response from the older folk is?
We are coming from, so as the generations continue to cascade, we're coming from generations where they were taught to conform. They were forced they were when you think about colonial times. So it was because I said so. And even the government, when we look at some of the democracies that we have been able to achieve from, some years back to now, right? So as the generations continue to come of age, we are seeing that they question. Like I said, before Gen Zs, millennials were thought to be, the generation that questions things. But now we're having these ones who now are really questioning, and they don't subscribe, again, probably also because of how they were raised, okay? Some of the Gen Zs were still, and millennials, I think we were still of the era of your parents saying, do this. If you question, they say, because I said so. That will not fly with this Gen Z generation for sure. So they question. So we are coming, so those, the difference is that the people who are the older generation come from a place where questioning authority was unheard of. Yeah. Okay, and that's what I'm saying. We don't need to look at some of these things as necessarily bad. I agree. Maybe the Matusi part, the abusive, that we, the violent part, that we, that expressly we say that's wrong. But when it comes to just me asking an authority figure, why do I need to do this? Yes, you're telling me, why do I need to do this? Why are these things like that? How come? Explain to me. So those are things that were unheard of, all right? So that's the difference. It's just that how can these kids be challenging authority? And I think in some aspect, it's also saying like how they, and that's how we look at it in African culture, how are they challenging their parents, you get? So I think now they're taking it even a bit personal. It's like they're challenging their parents.
The parents' authority.
Yes, because we, yes, their parents' authority. Even just to bring the other case recently of the young man Ian and the police, one of the things that people kept saying is like, that man is like your father. So there's a lot of that in African culture where we have to look at people as father or grandfather or yes. So, and I think it's the same concept here, where an older person from an older generation cannot fathom how a young person can question, someone older.
All right, and it also just speaks to how some of us can't imagine speaking to our parents or our elders in that way. That there's some who just the thought of it, you start feeling pain, like you're already being beaten. And so there's something that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta said, and now he even began trending on socials, which was about the young people, and some are saying he's a prophet. Just to get a sense of what it's about, let's listen to what Uhuru Kenyatta had to say some years back.
We have a youth bulge that, if not properly handled, can be a time bomb that can blow this country to pieces. And the handling of that has to be done extremely carefully. Extremely carefully. That is not a problem of this community or that. It affects us all. But how we manage it, we must manage it very carefully.
So that's one of the things that's making the former president seem like a prophet now, because what he spoke now seems to be coming to pass. And putting the political dynamics of it aside, is there a correlation, and I think we alluded to it earlier, but just for clarity, between the presidencies or the political regimes that were there and how people's psychology was framed? Is it that some of us, or the older ones especially, came from either colonial times, then we have those, it's like you said, cascaded down to those who were under Jomo Kenyatta's rule, then Moi's rule, which had some firm-handedness. Then we moved to Kibaki, who was a different kind of situation. Then Uhuru Kenyatta, and now William Ruto. Is there a correlation between even the government of the day, just the kind of style of leadership that was there with the leaders, and the way that people handle social issues?
Absolutely. But over and above the presidency, so there are some of the things, like some of the institutions, I think have continued behaving almost the same way. That has been a challenge, and I know part of it, like the police, and we've been saying reforms, but there are times you will see it or you'll see something and you will see it takes you back. It takes you back to some years back. So yes, first of all, the presidency, also it's just like a boss. The kind of a boss in an office sets the culture, has something to do with the culture of the office. Yeah. How free we feel to speak, how, psychological safety of the people in the office. So even taking it in that, so just take the country as just one large organization. So yes, first of all, just the presidency, but also because the presidency also means that how the generations have been. So even over and above that, we just had a generation that, even if not the presidency, even culturally, okay, I'm imagining, like let me give an example. My grandfather was a teacher, okay? And back in the day, teachers were feared. So those are some of the things I'm saying. And my dad would tell us stories of how that if students were walking and they call him by name, like teacher Wanjage, it's called teacher Wanjage, that was punishable. Like you just say teacher, you don't say teacher Wanjage. Right now, teachers are dancing on TikTok with their students and doing high five. So you see, even just the society culture, there's a lot of things that have changed that has led us to where we are today. Political, culturally, even religious views. We are seeing people are becoming more, even still probably, let me just talk about like a Christian, where I'm here and I'm saying I'm a Christian, but I'm probably not practicing the same way in the yesteryears, like I hold my own faith and I want to practice my Christianity the way I understand it, not necessarily what was passed down to me. So it's different things that have come together, including parenting styles. It's many things that have come down to us seeing a generation that is acting differently than what we have expected or we have seen before.
All right, so maybe just your closing remarks on this whole situation for the benefit of those who either are parents or, like we partly touched on, employers. What would your insight be to them in terms of handling these guys? I know people who are not even far from where we're seated, whose children appeared in the street and said, by the way, I'm around, niko kwa hii maandamano, and there's nothing you would do to stop them. So how should they be handled, whether it's someone who's a parent, a guardian, or otherwise?
First of all, one of the things I've been saying in the last couple of days is I have new respect for any parent who has raised a Gen Z. I think now we are getting to see, we have had them whispering, but I think now we have come to see what they've been dealing with. But at the same time, we have them to thank a bit because, unlike previous generations, these parents have given space to their children to express themselves. Hence why we are seeing them expressing themselves on the streets and at the workplaces, right? Like I said, this is not a generation because I said so. Yeah. So they give them the space to express themselves. They listen to them. So these children are exercising what has been happening in their homes. So one of the things is just to say that, well done for not being military, not being authoritarian, giving them the space to express. There's a way you can lead them and guide them, but still give them a space to be themselves. And if this is Gen Z, we can only imagine probably what will happen to the generations that are coming. So I think it's to let down, when we say, I was beaten, so I must beat. This generation is different. If you beat them, you will find yourself probably even trending, and you're the parent.
Yes.
They have no fear. We have seen them just putting things on TikTok about my father, my mother, or whatever, yeah. Or well, at the very least, I think they are open to therapy. At least that's one thing I like. And I'm saying this is a generation, at least, that even will make therapy less stigmatizing because they talk about it. It's a conversation they have with their friends. I'm in therapy. But the older generation, they come through the back door and leave, when it's still dark or something like that. So I think it's just that. Continue supporting them, continue giving them a space to voice and speak, but still know that you're the parent. One of the things is that never forget that you're the parent. That does not take away your responsibility as a parent in terms of guiding, directing, but you can be supporting. It's balancing, supporting, and challenging these children.
Thank you very much. And one of the things that you pointed out, which is usually a struggle for many, is how do I be the friend and the parent? I want to be their friend so that when they're going through significant milestones, I'm the one they run to. I want to be a parent to Sizoyane. It's a whole situation and it's a conversation that we can pick up later. Thank you for joining us. That is Faith Gishanga, who's a therapist and so she's a counseling and organizational therapist. And you could find her on her social media platforms. Thank you for joining us on NTV Weekend Edition. My name is Dan Mwangi. Alongside us on the sign language interpretation has been David Agondoa. Have yourselves a great night and a great weekend and stay safe. Good night.